Have you ever asked someone a direct question and walked away feeling more confused than before? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, I do not know if they are lying, but my body is telling me something is off? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to talk about truth. Not truth as a weapon, not truth as a way to control people, but truth as a form of inner freedom. Because when you cannot tell what is real, your mind becomes a battlefield. You overthink. You replay conversations. You doubt your memory. You doubt your instincts. You start living on anxiety instead of clarity. Two ideas will guide everything in this conversation. First, most deception does not succeed because liars are geniuses. It succeeds because good people ask the wrong kind of questions, at the wrong time, in the wrong emotional energy. Second, the cleanest way to get closer to truth is not interrogation. It is calm, specific, and consistent inquiry that makes reality hard to hide. Now let us start with a story, because this lesson is not only about other people. It is about what happens inside you when you are trying to find the truth. Imagine someone named Morgan. Morgan is the kind of person who values honesty. Morgan does not enjoy conflict. Morgan believes that if you treat people well, they will treat you well. Morgan also has a habit that many kind people share. Morgan trusts words more than patterns. Morgan has a friend named Blake. Blake is charming, quick, and socially smooth. When Morgan is around Blake, things feel easy. Laughs come fast. Conversations move quickly. Blake says the right things at the right time. Blake has that talent for making you feel like you are the most important person in the room. One day Morgan hears a rumor, not a huge scandal, just a small thing that makes Morgan pause. Someone says Blake has been saying negative things about Morgan behind Morgan's back. Morgan feels a sting. The first feeling is disbelief, then embarrassment, then anger, then confusion, then the worst feeling of all, uncertainty. Morgan decides to confront Blake. Morgan chooses the most common approach. Morgan asks a direct question in a charged emotional state. Morgan says, "Did you say this about me?" Blake responds instantly. Blake laughs. Blake says, "Of course not." Blake says, "Who told you that?" Blake says, "People are jealous of our friendship." Blake says, "You know me." Morgan feels relief. The tension releases. Morgan wants to believe it. Morgan accepts the answer. And for a moment, the mind relaxes. Then another rumor appears a week later. Then another person hints at the same thing. Morgan begins to sense a pattern. But Morgan is now trapped between two fears. Fear 1 is believing the rumor and harming the friendship. Fear 2 is ignoring the truth and becoming the fool. So Morgan asks Blake again, this time more carefully, but still in the same structure. "Are you sure you did not say it?" Blake says, "I already told you no. Why are you still bringing this up? Do you not trust me?" Now Morgan feels guilt. Morgan thinks, maybe I am being paranoid. Morgan backs off again. And the pattern continues. This is how deception can live for a long time. Not because the liar is brilliant, but because the honest person keeps asking questions that invite denial, invite defensiveness, and invite emotional manipulation. So what is the solution? The solution is not becoming suspicious of everyone. The solution is learning how to ask questions that make reality speak. Today I am going to give you 3 questions, but not as tricks, not as magic. These are questions that create clarity because they change the structure of the conversation. They reduce hiding places. They reduce vague answers. They reduce emotional fog. Before we get to the questions, we need to understand one thing about how people lie. Most lies survive on speed and vagueness. Speed means answering quickly, pushing past details, changing the topic, creating emotion, creating confusion. Vagueness means using general words that sound convincing but contain no verifiable facts. So if you want to get closer to truth, you do the opposite. You slow the conversation down. You bring it into specifics. You separate feelings from facts. You focus on timelines, actions, and concrete details. And you stay calm, because calm is oxygen for truth and poison for manipulation. Now let us go back to Morgan and Blake. Morgan decides to try a different approach. Morgan does not start with accusation. Morgan starts with clarity. Morgan says, I want to understand what happened and I want to be fair. I heard that you said I was unreliable and that you regret working with me. I am not here to fight. I am here to understand. Can you walk me through what you said and to whom? Notice what Morgan just did. Morgan did not ask a yes or no question. Morgan asked for a narrative. Liars love yes or no questions because denial is easy. Narratives are harder because they require structure, detail, and consistency. Now Blake pauses. Blake says, "What are you talking about?" Blake says, "I do not even remember." Morgan stays calm. Morgan says, "Okay, if you do not remember, then help me understand your last conversation with that person. When did you talk to them? And what did you talk about?" Now Blake starts feeling pressure. Not pressure from aggression, pressure from precision. This is the first question. Question 1 is this: what exactly happened and in what order? You can phrase it in many ways, but the spirit is the same. Ask for a step-by-step story. For example, can you walk me through that day from start to finish? What did you do first and what happened next? When did you last speak to them and what was the context? What did you mean when you said that? Give me the full picture. A truthful person might feel uncomfortable, but they can usually provide a coherent timeline. Their story may not be perfect, because memory is human, but it tends to have a natural flow. A deceptive person often struggles with order. They may jump around. They may stay vague. They may over-explain irrelevant parts while avoiding the core. They may react emotionally to shift the frame from facts to feelings. Now, a warning. Truthful people can also be nervous, so do not treat nervousness as proof of lying. We are not hunting for a twitch. We are watching for patterns of evasion. Now let us see what happens with Morgan. Morgan asks for the story. Blake gives fragments. Blake says people misunderstand me. Blake says I did not mean it like that. Blake says you are making a big deal out of nothing. Morgan notices something. There are no details, only defensive emotion. So Morgan moves to the second question. Question 2 is this: what is your explanation for the evidence I have? Not your explanation for why I feel this way. Not your explanation for why the other person is wrong. Your explanation for the specific evidence. This question matters because many people respond to accusations by attacking the messenger, attacking the motive, or attacking your feelings. They say you are insecure. They say you are overthinking. They say you are being dramatic. They say who told you. They say they are jealous. All of that can be noise. It might be true sometimes, but it does not answer the core. So the second question pulls the conversation back to reality. Morgan says, I understand there could be misunderstandings. Here is what I know. 2 different people told me the same thing separately. They both described the same phrase. They also said, you told them not to mention it to me. How do you explain that? Now Blake has to address a concrete point. A truthful person can respond with specifics. They can say, yes, I said something and I regret it. Or, They can say I said something different. Here is what I said. Or they can say I did say it, but it was in a different context, and here is the context. A deceptive person often tries to dissolve the evidence into emotion. They say, why do you believe them? They say you are choosing them over me. They say, I cannot believe you are doing this. They say, I feel attacked. Again, feelings can be real, but feelings are not explanations. Now, here is something subtle. Sometimes a liar will give an explanation, but it will be too clean, too perfect, too convenient, like a movie script. Real life is messy. Real memories include uncertainty and texture. Deception often includes polished simplicity, so you listen for grounded detail, not dramatic performance. Now Morgan asks for an explanation. Blake still avoids. Blake says people are trying to break us up. Blake says I would never do that. Blake says, you know my heart. Morgan feels the old pull to accept emotional language as proof, but Morgan stays steady. Now Morgan uses the third question. This one is powerful because it changes the cost of lying. Question 3 is this: what would you be willing to do to clear this up? This is not about punishment. This is about willingness. Truth has a certain confidence. If you did not do the thing, you often want the fog gone because fog harms you too. So a truthful person is oft unwilling to take reasonable steps to clarify. A deceptive person often wants the conversation to end quickly without any verification. Morgan says, I do not want to live in suspicion. I want clarity. What are you willing to do to clear this up? Are you willing to talk to that person with me present? Are you willing to send a message correcting the story? Are you willing to acknowledge what you said if you did say it and repair it? Now Blake is cornered by a simple reality. If Blake is innocent and cares about the relationship, Blake will likely choose some form of clarification. If Blake is hiding, Blake will resist, not always with a loud no, sometimes with delay, sometimes with offense, sometimes with guilt. They say, I cannot believe you would ask that. They say, I do not need to prove anything. They say, if you do not trust me, we are done. Notice what that does. It turns your request for clarity into a threat, so you back off. This is where many people lose power. They fear losing the relationship, so they accept fog. But fog is the environment where deception survives. So Morgan does not argue. Morgan simply observes. Blake refuses to do anything to clarify. Blake demands trust while offering no transparency. Morgan learns the lesson. Trust that cannot tolerate clarity is not trust. It is control. Now, let us step back and make this bigger than Morgan and Blake, because this shows up everywhere. It shows up in relationships. It shows up in friendships. It shows up at work. It shows up in families. It shows up when someone is hiding a habit, hiding a decision, hiding a conversation, hiding a mistake. And the reason it hurts so much is because human beings crave stable reality. When reality is unstable, your nervous system becomes unstable. So these 3 questions are not tricks. They are stabilizers. Question 1 pulls the conversation into timeline in detail. What exactly happened and in what order? Question 2 pulls the conversation into evidence and explanation. How do you explain what I know? Question 3 pulls the conversation into accountability and willingness. What are you willing to do to clear this up? Now, there is an even deeper layer that matters if you want to use these questions wisely. Your tone matters more than your wording. If you ask these questions with rage, you turn the conversation into a war. People become defensive even if they're honest. If you ask these questions with fear, You make a lapse under pressure and accept vague answers. If you ask these questions with calm authority, you create a space where truth can either appear or reveal its absence. Calm authority means you are respectful, but not easily moved by manipulation. You do not insult. You do not threaten. You do not beg. You do not over-explain. You simply ask and observe. Now, let me tell you another story. Because many people want to use lie detection questions in romantic relationships, and this is where emotions can distort everything. Imagine someone named Priya. Priya is dating someone named Evan. Evan is charismatic but inconsistent. Priya notices that Evan sometimes disappears for hours, then returns with vague explanations. Priya also notices that when Priya asks direct questions, Evan gets annoyed and says Priya is insecure. Priya wants clarity, but also fears being labeled needy. So Priya stays quiet for weeks. The quiet grows into anxiety. The anxiety grows into suspicion. The suspicion grows into a kind of internal obsession. Finally, Priya asks a direct question. Where were you last night? Evan says out with friends. Priya says which friends? Evan says why does it matter? Now Priya feels crazy. This is where many people either explode or shut down. But Priya learns a new approach. Priya says, I am not here to control you. I am here to understand. Walk me through last night. When did you leave? Who were you with? Where did you go? When did you get home? Notice that Priya is not demanding. Priya is gathering data. Evan responds with vagueness. Priya then uses the evidence question. I asked because you told me you were home. Then you stopped replying for 5 hours. Then I saw your location at a different place. Help me understand that. Now Evan cannot hide behind annoyance as easily. Then Priya asks the willingness question. If this is a misunderstanding, what are you willing to do so we both feel secure? Are you willing to be more consistent about updates? Are you willing to agree on simple communication expectations? Now the relationship is being tested by a mature standard, not a standard of perfect behavior, a standard of transparency and respect. Now, this is important. The goal is not to catch a liar. The goal is to build a relationship where lying is unnecessary and unacceptable. In a healthy relationship, you can ask questions and receive answers without punishment. In an unhealthy relationship, questions themselves are treated as betrayal. So if your questions are consistently punished, that tells you something about the environment. Now I want to bring in the spiritual dimension, because truth is not only external, truth is also internal. Many people focus on whether others lie to them, but they ignore how they lie to themselves. They lie to themselves about red flags. They lie to themselves about patterns. They lie to themselves about what they tolerate. They lie to themselves about their own boundaries. They lie to themselves because the truth would require change. So, if you want to live in truth, you have to practice truth inside first. Ask yourself, what am I avoiding seeing? What explanation do I keep accepting because it is comfortable? What pattern have I normalized? What fear keeps me from asking for clarity? This is karma too, because the lies you accept become the life you live. If you accept fog, you live in fog. If you accept vague answers, you build a vague relationship. If you accept manipulation, you train the manipulator. If you accept disrespect, you teach people how to treat you. So the deeper practice is not only detecting deception, it is living so cleanly that deception has less power over your mind. Now let us talk about why these 3 questions work at the psychological level. They work because they increase cognitive load. A person who is fabricating must hold many details consistent. The more you ask for order, evidence, explanation, and willingness, the harder it becomes to keep a lie stable. They also work because they shift the conversation from emotion to structure. A liar wants to control emotion. They want you to feel guilty. They want you to feel mean. They want you to feel ashamed for asking. When you stay calm and structured, the emotional tricks lose strength. They also work because they test values. A person who values truth will prefer clarity even if it is uncomfortable. A person who values control will prefer fog even if it harms you. Now, I want to add a very important ethical line. Do not use these questions to dominate or trap someone. Do not use them to harass. Do not use them to extract confessions for ego. Use them to create clarity and safety. Truth without compassion becomes cruelty. Compassion without truth becomes self-betrayal. Wisdom is the middle path. Now let us bring it to workplace situations, because deception at work can cost you reputation and opportunity. Imagine someone named Jamie. Jamie hears that a co-worker is blaming Jamie for a mistake. Jamie wants to confront but does not want drama. Jamie uses the same structure. Jamie asks for timeline. Help me understand what happened step by step. Jamie asks for evidence, explanation. Here is what was reported. How do you explain the difference? Jamie asks for willingness. What are you willing to do to correct the record? The co-worker who is honest will usually cooperate. The co-worker who is deceptive will usually dodge, deny, and resist correction. Even if you do not get full truth, you get clarity about character. Character is truth in slow motion. Now, here is another subtle principle that will save you from obsession. Your goal is not always to prove the lie. Sometimes your goal is to decide how much access a person should have to your life. You do not need courtroom proof to set boundaries. If a person repeatedly gives vague answers, flips blame, refuses transparency, and punishes your questions, you can decide that this is not a safe person for closeness. That is not paranoia. That is discernment. Now I want to close with a longer reflection because this topic touches a deep human fear. Many people are afraid of being lied to because lies steal your reality. When someone lies, they are not only hiding information, they are manipulating the world you live in. They are making choices on your behalf without your consent. That is why lying feels violating. It is not only the content, it is the control. So learning how to ask clean questions is learning how to reclaim consent over your own life. And the bigger spiritual truth is this: when you live with clarity, you suffer less. Even if the truth is painful, it is stable. Pain with truth is cleaner than comfort with deception. Truth may hurt at first, but truth heals because it lets you make wise choices. Deception may feel comfortable in the short term, but it harms because it keeps you investing in illusions. So do not be afraid of questions. Questions are not attacks. Questions are a form of respect for reality. Now I want to leave you with a final image. Imagine your life is a house. Truth is the foundation. If the foundation is solid, storms can come and the house still stands. If the foundation is cracked with lies, the house may look fine for a while, but one storm can collapse it. So choose foundation over decoration. Choose clarity over charm. Choose patterns over promises. Choose calm inquiry over emotional interrogation. And remember these 3 questions when you feel confused. What exactly happened and in what order? How do you explain what I know? What would you be willing to do to clear this up? Thank you for coming back to the channel. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had a moment where you realized the answers you were getting were designed to create fog? What question finally brought clarity? Share your story in the comments so other people can learn faster. Subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment to support the channel. I will see you in the next one.